Welcome to Martial Mentality, a martial arts inspired podcast. And today we have a Martial Mentality exclusive. We went and saw Karate Kid Legends, and we're going to give you a review of the movie. So first off, we're going to start with a non-spoiler review, and then we'll get into spoilers. Today we have with us Mr. Matt Chapman, and of course we have Mr. Joseph Blackwelder.
Yo, yo.
Matt, thank you for being on this exclusive and going to watch the movie with us.
Yeah, happy to be here.
So, Matt, tell us about what you thought about Karate Kid Legends, just from your point of view, non-spoiler.
It was interesting for sure. For one thing, it was interesting seeing the blend between Kung Fu and Karate, and especially when he changed his geographic so much to move to where he did and how he had to adapt. It kind of makes me think about how you adapt with your martial arts too, because he had switched from one system and had to adapt to another one. It's a short period. So I thought that was interesting how they did that from a martial arts standpoint and just an entire life change standpoint. So I thought that was a pretty interesting aspect there.
So, what were your overall thoughts about the movie, the characters?
I liked it. It was a good movie. There was a good blend of everything, good martial arts, good acting, great acting. And it was interesting. It's hard for me to describe because we only saw it the one time.
Hard not to spoil anything.
Yeah, it's hard
too.
not to spoil anything. Yeah.
Don't worry, we'll get to the spoilers in a second.
Right.
What do you think, Joe? How was your take on Karate Kid Legends?
I agree with Matt. Like, I do like the blend between Kung Fu, Karate. Also, how they switched up the locations. Those were plus. The choreography, I thought was good overall. Maybe over the top in some areas, but it's a freaking martial arts movie. What do you expect? What do you expect? It was cool how they had like a couple of different storylines. I'm still not spoiling anything here. There's like a few different things going on in the movie, a few different storylines that were really interesting. Yeah, I won't say that because it'll spoil. But there's multiple things going on and multiple characters they introduce.
The story had layers.
It definitely got layers. It's definitely got layers, and I enjoyed that. So.
I think for me, to kind of piggyback off what both of you said, I do like the fact that they are starting to get more into the history of Miyagi,
Yep.
the lineage tree and things of that nature.
Right.
So this movie kind of gives, like you just said, layers to the Karate Kid storyline. How Han and Miyagi are connected.
Yep.
They finally explained that. I thought that was pretty neat.
Right.
And I did enjoy the main character. He probably was
Yeah.
my favorite character in the movie.
Right.
I do like the fact that they expound upon him and they actually give him a lot of character growth.
Yeah. I'll say this isn't too much of a spoiler because it's one of those early things in the movie, but the main character, Lee, I'll refer to him as Lee. He already knew martial arts.
Right. That was different.
So, but in his particular situation, he has to be trained by, his two mentors for his situation. I thought it was really interesting how he already had some martial arts experience, but they look at it from this standpoint. It's like, hey, we need to train you and get you prepared for what you're going through.
I think really like when Ralph Macchio's character, obviously everybody knows him, Daniel's son comes in.
Right.
It's more so to prepare him for what he has to do later in the movie.
Yep.
And so it kind of makes sense why he's coming in. Of course, they're also trying to connect, Mr. Han and Miyagi and things of that nature. But
right.
No, I like Stuffed Crust. He was pretty good.
Yeah.
Stuffed crust.
Stuffed
right.
Crust. That'll be
really
later
good.
in the movie. Yeah. So, but they nicknamed him Stuffed Crust. So I kind of liked him, and he was a really good character. And I was actually really impressed with his acting skills.
Yeah.
He made me believe that,
What he was
a
going
martial
through.
artist. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. He was a martial artist, but he was also going through these other things that made me kind of feel for the character.
Yep.
Probably
Yeah.
more so than I ever did for Danielson. I know that sounds bad.
It's just two different people from two different places. Like if I go back and watch the original Karate Kid, I still like it because Ralph Macchio, when he Danielson when he was a kid, he's got that thick freaking accent. He's like, "Come on, ma!" Like, I still love it. I still feel for him, but I feel like you feel it more with this new character. He really showed, without spoiling what happens at the beginning of the movie, where he goes and all that, what's happened to him. He really does a good job of showing his emotions.
I know we're reviewing this movie, but real quick with Karate Kid. So for me, Daniel in the original Karate Kid, I know he's the hero, he's the main character, and we have our bullies.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of times where he could be a jerk too.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
I'm like, this kid is a jerk.
Right.
Like they're just firing back at each other one after another.
Yeah, you know,
It's also just two different times.
and that's true too.
This one's more modern. Much
You're
more
right.
modern.
You're right.
You know?
You're
So,
right. And I think they did a good job with this movie of showcasing like the more modern feel of
Yeah.
the world.
Right. Not too much. They didn't go. I'm actually appreciate the fact that they didn't. They didn't go too deep into it, but you can tell it's modern life.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So Matt, who was your favorite character in the movie?
I mean, honestly, just because it's the man, it's like it's a close second with Lee, but Mr. Han's my favorite.
yeah.
Man, he's so cool.
Agreed.
Do you think? Do you guys think that Mr. Han kind of has taken that Miyagi role in this series now? Finally.
Oh, absolutely. For Lee, I would say so, considering that's his original Sensei Sifu, whatever you call it, because he's got two different backgrounds. But that's just like his original. Like you always have that level of high respect for the first person who taught you. So
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
got equal respect in a sense for Daniel, but I feel like there's like a connection too for Lee to Mr. Han
Yeah.
in that aspect for me.
So I think there's like no replacing, you know what I mean, Mr. Miyagi.
Mm-hmm.
But because Jackie Chan's his own, or Mr. Han's his own character for sure. But I
Mhm.
feel like he probably fits the shoes well. But he's still his own character. You know what I mean? He's not looking to be Mr. Miyagi.
You know, I actually kind of think that they're slowly transitioning Daniel almost into that Miyagi type character.
Oh yeah.
And you know, they kind of did it in Cobra Kai, but in this movie, he kind of has more of a master air to him.
He's
like-
older. You
right?
know, he's
you
just-
know,
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
had some experience with it, so he knows what's going on with it now compared to when, if anybody watched Cobra Kai, he was piecing it together whenever he was building his dojo in that series
Right.
compared to now when he's had all this, the tournaments in his town,
Mhm.
the Setai Tekai, all that. He's been through all that. He's just got that background and knowledge behind him now.
Right. It looks like, again, without spoiling much, like Mr. Han's done had some success compared to what he had in his original Karate
Yeah,
Kid
because he
movie.
just had Jaden Smith's character and
Right.
that, and now he's got his
He was
entire
in rough-
school.
Exactly. He was in rough times, and
Now he's
now he's
dre-
got a school.
dressing nice. All the students are running around training.
Right. So
I guess after having like one sole student and then going through and just winning the whole thing, that
Yes.
tends to build you a good reputation.
right, teaching Jaden Smith that in that movie just how do I say it, like re-sparked his drive for kung fu, and
right?
so,
And I like how they bring aspects from both those movies into these because you can
Mhm.
see right towards the beginning of the movie
Yeah.
with his students, he's doing the same thing that he did with Jaden Smith, jacket on, jacket off. You see all that stuff, and you can see he's integrated it into his new students that he's
Yeah.
bringing into his school.
Yeah,
That's
they did a
right.
good job like referencing the other movies, but
Yeah.
subtly. So if
Yeah.
you watch the series,
Mhm.
you're like, oh, I remember that. I
Like,
remember that.
That's a
And-
reference to that.
In my
Yes.
opinion, that's like a must too.
Yeah,
you
especially-
have to.
Especially if you're going to build movies upon each other with a
Yeah.
series like this.
Right. And
can't just-
especially just the story of this whole Karate Kid in general and Cobra Kai, like how it's the same actors from the original movies. Like we're witnessing history, so like you gotta throw the stuff like that in there. You just have to.
So, what were some things about the movie that maybe you weren't fond of that maybe you wish they would have done? And then we'll get into spoilers so we can just
Gotcha.
talk freely.
So for me, I would say the choreography and the combat was good. I just feel like they would have dialed back a little bit with, like, you could tell when they were using wires for a little more flash. And me and you were talking about this earlier. With them being seasoned martial artists, they can know when to take impact and deal with certain things. I wish they would just use that more, like use actual striking impact to show certain things like that, rather than depending on wires that are so exaggerated. So that's the main thing with me. Like the combat was good. I just wish they would make it seem less floaty when there's the big motions like that, when they have the athleticism and the martial capability to do those things themselves.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't like wire fu either. I prefer
Right.
more realistic.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
Fight
That was the
choreography.
first thing in the first fight scene. That
'Cause-
was the first thing I was thinking.
Because you could tell, like, when people were like flying from one end to the other, it was like, okay, it's a good technique, but it's not realistic in that aspect.
Right.
Even like without the wire, like just how the fighting goes is like, and this isn't spoiling anything. This could be talking about any martial arts movie, but when people like freaking, I know we go over all kinds of moves in real life, like any situations, but when you're like freaking rolling across the car hood and like I don't know how to explain it. Like, you can tell it's choreographed. That's the best way to explain
Right.
it. You can tell it's choreographed, and I get it. It's a movie.
Right.
You know what I mean? But
Right.
I do love the realistic, like get as realistic as you can.
I agree. I
But I guess for this movie in particular, like maybe taking the route they did is better.
maybe, you know,
You know,
I would say for me, the thing about the movie, the wire fu, I wish there was a little less wire fu. It wasn't too bad, but it was enough where, you know, if
It
you
was
know what you're looking
noticeable.
for, where it's
right,
noticeable.
yep.
I wish that some of the storylines that they started had been closed a little better. Because they would start a storyline and then they would kind of close it, but they didn't close it.
They certainly tried to fit a lot into this movie.
They did. They
Yeah.
did. I almost felt like the issue with me is that the movie was a little bit too short. I almost felt like it needed 30 more minutes.
What was the runtime? You remember?
I mean,
An hour 34.
Yeah, they could have made this a 2
oh,
for sure.
that's,
Even longer, but that might have been a stretch.
it's interesting. When we were sitting there watching it, it felt like it was longer, honestly.
Mm-mm.
Right.
It was.
They did try to pack a lot in there.
They did, and
Yeah.
I felt like there were some things like, particularly like the bad guys. I don't feel like the bad guys got enough story arc.
Yep.
You know.
Here's a guy.
Yep.
You know, that's kind of how it felt. Yeah.
Right. Here's a bad guy. He's a bully.
Don't know much about him.
That's right. Like you barely even know his name.
Yeah.
You see just enough to where you want to punch him in the face.
That's
Right.
about it, you know.
Right.
And I think what made the original Karate Kids really good is because you got to know the bad guys.
You got to know him, and depending like on who you were, or like that could have went either way. Like you just said earlier, like Daniel wasn't the best kid either.
He wasn't.
You know what I'm
He
saying?
was
And-
not.
right. Like they both had their moments. So
Right.
but they gave backstory on it. You can take any character in something and give him no story and just make him a jerk, and you'll hate him. But that same guy that's in here, like you could throw in a little bit of story, and people are going to start sympathizing for him.
Well, and I think if you think about it, you know, because they've done videos on this about, you know, have you ever seen the YouTube video where they talk about Johnny Lawrence and how he was actually the hero and that Daniel was the
Yeah.
bad guy? the
Yeah,
Karate
I've seen
Kid?
that. I've
Right.
seen that.
You should watch that because it's funny because the man who does the video, whoever does it, he does make some interesting points.
I mean, Johnny was living in a pretty, like, it was a rich neighborhood, but he wasn't living in the best home environment. You know
Right.
what I mean? Like,
Yeah, because his dad had that attitude, what was going on with him, and his mom was just too afraid to step up about it. I remember
Right.
that.
Right.
And see, and that's what I'm saying. Like, listen at how you guys are talking about the characters. I feel like with the bad guys in this movie, we can't really do that
don't
because
know
we don't
nothing
know.
about 'em.
We don't know anything about them.
Right.
Other
You
than
know.
they're just jerk martial artists
That's
who give
it.
off a New York mobster vibe.
That's
Right,
it.
right.
That's all we know. And so I felt like they kind of missed that when making this movie.
hmm
But overall, like I said, I still like the movie. I'm gonna buy it when it comes out.
Of course.
Same.
You know,
There's two things that again, I love the movie. I'm not like dissing the movie. If I had to pick anything two things I didn't like, not to go too deep or make this too long-winded, but the whole thing about Daniel San and Mr. Han linking up for the first time, like it's in my opinion, that's what the trailer made this about.
mm-hmm,
You know, two branches, one tree, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
But in my opinion, in the movie, they did it. They presented it on a silver platter, but they didn't give a lot of details on that. It was
right.
like, here's this, here's what happened. There you go.
Yep.
Like it
Yep.
felt to me, it felt a little rushed.
Mm-hmm.
If they could have went into that a little deeper,
Mm-hmm.
that would have been better, I think. And then this might just be a gripe just for myself, but what we talked about a minute ago about Mr. Han, in his movie, the other Karate Kid movie with him, he was on hard times. He was training the guy at his apartment, basically in
Mhm.
the backyard.
Mhm.
And now all of a sudden he's freaking running this big school. It's like, well, dang, like how you been doing? Like what you done the past few years? How many? So I wish they'd have touched on that maybe just a little, but otherwise it's all good.
You never know. Maybe if they do a sequel, maybe they just let that open so they could have
Could
some
have.
material to have
It
to
could
throw
have.
into a sequel movie.
Right.
Yeah, and I do think they missed out on bringing back Jaden Smith.
Yeah.
Jaden Smith was not in the movie. I think he should have at least been, even if it wasn't a large role.
Right.
So
He
maybe
should
at
have
least
been
like a cameo.
How's he been doing? Yeah.
Yeah, he should have been referenced, in some way, shape, or form. Don't just like not say anything about him.
Exactly. Yep.
But all right, now let's get into spoilers.
Yep.
Okay. So let me say this about spoilers. What I enjoyed about the movie from a spoiler aspect is Mr. Han kind of has his Daniel-san in Lee Fong.
Mm-hmm.
And I like the way that, well, actually they're family.
Yeah, because Mr. Han is Lee's uncle.
Yes. So
Mm.
I thought that was an interesting twist on things, on how, and they kind of really didn't go into that as much. They kind of
Right.
reference it, but like, obviously, Mr. Han cares about his nephew greatly
Yeah, and student.
and student. But I also, Lee's mother and Mr. Han, I kind of wish they had showed their relationship a little bit more.
Yeah,
They didn't really reference them much other
Right.
than,
just their interactions.
right, exactly.
And that might just be because of their distance. I mean, we're in the spoiler section now. After Lee's brother's death, that probably kind of split that bond between them a bit because in a sense, she might kind of blame him in a way
Right.
over how his brother
It's
died.
like clearly at first she's like she don't want him fighting. She's no more of this stuff, but she's clearly got some respect for the man because she's still letting him somewhat do it, and then she finally comes around. When he comes in their house, he's just training them and doing the same thing with no regard to her opinion.
Which was a great fight scene, by the way.
Oh,
When
yeah.
Mr. Han came in there, Lee
That
had
was
no
fun.
idea what was going on. They both grabbed the frying pans. That was awesome.
That was
Yeah.
fun. I like Lee kind of has like a young Jackie Chan vibe to
Oh,
him a
yeah.
little bit,
Oh, yeah.
So his choreography was excellent. He did a really good job, really making me believe that he knew some martial arts.
Which, to add on, we were talking about this yesterday. Now that we're into the spoiler section, how did you feel that they did representing both styles as far as Kung Fu and Ishiru together through the cross training with Lee?
Well, they didn't really reference Miyagi-Do much.
Yeah, not a lot.
Not a lot. It was
They
more of the
said,
Kung
like-
Fu side.
Right. They
That was my issue.
gave the
too.
little backstory of how the two are linked, and
Yeah.
that was that.
I kind of wanted them to kind of go into like, maybe they would have said something to the point like, oh, the crane kick, and
Yeah.
Mr. Han show his version of it.
Right.
And then, Daniel-san show his version of it. Just certain things to kind of link both
Yeah.
styles together. They kind of said they were linked, but they didn't do enough to
Like,
showcase
hey, I
that they
did
were
Mr.
linked.
Miyagi. Like maybe expound a little bit.
Right.
Like, well,
Right.
They
Right.
might have did a little better with that if they weren't too busy fighting with each other. It's like, oh, this better.
Right. That was a good scene.
I
That was
really
funny.
think they missed out on the opportunity they should have had a fight scene.
Oh, that would have been cool.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah,
granted, we
that
know
was
in real
great.
life Jackie Chan's going to beat up Ralph Macchio.
Yeah.
But like, I would have loved to see Mr. Han more so versus Daniel-san, just to say, hey, this is Miyagi-Do karate. This is
Yeah.
how it works.
Right.
Oh, well, this is, the Han style of Kung Fu. This is how
Right.
this works.
And then we can,
One branch stronger.
Right.
Yeah.
That was my favorite quote in the whole movie.
Can kind of, because the antagonist, a lot of his, if I'm not mistaken, was karate as well, wasn't it? Kind of, maybe.
They didn't really showcase what his style was, actually. They didn't
What's
tell.
that? Who's
Connor O'Day. Connor O'Day is the bad guy.
Oh yeah. It looks like karate, but he was in a
Or Connor
he was in
Day.
a he was in an MMA gym, but they were clearly like he's breaking boards, he's in the gi,
Yeah.
like he's throwing. It looked like karate.
Because that would have been good too. Like him having a stronger foundation in Kung Fu, Daniel being there would have been a good way to just like have a way for him to see what his opponent is doing and be able to break down and show him how to counter and deal with it, which we did see a little bit of that towards the end,
Mhm.
but it'd be a lot cooler to have seen that in greater detail, like helping him study this and break down in order to help counter what he was doing initially.
Right.
Yeah.
Also, the Five Boroughs tournament that happens in the movie is basically a tournament that goes on throughout the city.
Yeah.
Another thing that I was kind of upset about is I wanted more time frame for the fights
Yeah.
because they were really quick.
They were fast, yeah.
They were really
And
fast.
it got to the point where it showed like what 2, 3 maybe, and then it just straight up montaged the rest.
Yeah.
Which
and then
would,
skip to the last fight.
which would have kind of dived more into like, hey, we would have been good to have more screen time for this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wanted a little bit more martial arts action. I mean, we got enough, but I wanted more
It was more outside the tournament than in the tournament.
than in the
honestly.
tournament, right?
Yeah.
And I felt like one thing the old Karate Kid did is, they didn't maybe spend a lot of time in the matches, but I felt like the matches were more integral.
Mhm.
So when the tournament happened, you were more invested in the tournament.
Yeah.
I wasn't really invested in this tournament.
Right.
Yeah, in
Right.
the old movies, the story was going through, they were training, and that built up to the tournament. And just like the whole movie was just kind of at a certain pace. And then like, okay, we've done all this, like all the heavy martial arts was put into the training. And then when you get there, you don't see it as much as at the actual tournament.
All right.
Yeah, it seemed like everything they tried to throw in this movie, it took away from everything, if that makes sense. You tried to do too much, therefore it took away from everything.
Mhm.
Like they had so many storylines going that they couldn't just focus on one.
And that's another thing.
I mean, we didn't even touch on, his girlfriend and her dad and the boxing.
Right, see
and then
what I'm
him
saying?
training him,
Right.
And
Like,
why he was training.
why he was training him.
Because he apparently, whenever they were doing that, he owed the antagonist Sensei money
Right.
from a loan.
Yeah.
And see, that's what I'm saying. They
Right.
kind of didn't close that story arc. They
No.
did, but they didn't.
Right.
So in the movie, basically, Li Fong joins the tournament to make money for his girlfriend and his dad because they owe the bad guy Sensei's money. Okay, cool. He wins the tournament.
He gets a fresh start.
He gets a fresh start, but it's almost like I would have liked to have seen like why did the bad guy give him the money?
Mm-hmm.
What was the loan for? Like, okay, like
I mean,
Was it the
for
pizza
all- I was
joint?
about to say, for all we know, it could have been to open the pizza place.
right, like
Right.
it-
Because, like he said, he used to be a boxer. Then he had his
Oh.
daughter. He opened up the restaurant.
and that was it.
You know what? I think I remember one line from the movie. He was like, they were talking about, oh, you owe me money. And then they talked about, oh, where's my car? Like, that could have been it too. Maybe he got a car or something. Maybe for like helping with deliveries and like getting back to the store. Cause I feel like I remember a line like
They
that
don't
too.
they don't expound upon it. I think that's what's frustrating because it's like,
Right.
man, like I kind of want to know backstory
By
on
the
this
time,
guy.
like, if they'd have spent too much time on it, then they wouldn't have been able to do the rest of the story arcs going through this. You know what I mean? There's so many story arcs going on in this. Like,
Yeah. So either they opened a door and left it open to an extent. I mean, some of it got closed, and then there were some where like they just barely cracked the door. You could see a little bit, but you're sitting there trying to peek through and understand what
Right.
you're seeing through all of it.
but I'll
they
tell
could have
you,
made this a freaking series.
you know what? To be honest,
This would have been better.
this
series.
would have been better as a series.
It would have
than
taken
movie.
one whole season to at least explain everything that happened in this
Yeah,
movie.
exactly. I agree. That is probably the best. You're right.
Yeah.
This would have been a great continuation to like Cobra Kai.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This would have been an excellent series.
Right.
I
Right.
agree with you.
Yeah. All in all, it's a great movie.
Oh, yeah,
I,
for sure.
I did enjoy the movie. 7.5 out of 10.
7.5 out of 10. What do you
That's my
say?
vote.
I'd
I'm a
say
harsh critic too. I don't know.
I'd say
Maybe I'm
roughly
nice.
about this, maybe 8.5, something like
Get
that.
an 8.5.
If you're a fan of the series or just any of it, you gotta watch it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
You gotta watch it.
I give it a 7 out of 10. I think if the storylines were a little bit tighter, I would have given it a 7.5. I want a little bit more story out of my Karate Kid because
Yep.
Cobra Kai does such a good job with
Oh,
the
Oh,
stories.
it goes so
Phenomenal.
in-depth.
It does a
Phenomenal.
good job, and
Yeah.
I know it's a series,
Yeah.
but like because the original Karate Kid did such a good job setting up the storylines,
Yep.
Cobra Kai could bounce off of that, and they
Right.
made them
and they
deeper.
still got this here too.
They
They've got
do.
Mr. Han's movie. Then
They do.
got all the material from Cobra Kai.
They do.
You know, so they had it.
And
you
then
know.
we'll possibly
They
see
do.
Daniel and Johnny open up their pizza place.
Oh yeah, so
Miyagi Do.
big
Miyagi Do.
spoiler. Yeah, so William Zabka did
He's
return
in the
as
movie.
Johnny Lawrence. He is in the movie. So when you watch the end, stay a little bit. They're gonna show a scene, and they're gonna show Johnny, and he's Johnny
Being
Lawrence.
Johnny.
Yeah, being Johnny.
Being Johnny, absolutely.
Yeah.
I loved the slogans he had
Yeah.
whenever he was thinking of Miyagi Do.
What was it?
One was about pepperoni.
Black olive on, or it was like
No, olive on, olive off.
Yeah.
And then one was about anchovies. What was that one?
Cut. It was something about cut first,
Something about like what? Something about because he kind of used the
cut
strike
first,
hard
cut
stuff.
fast.
No,
No
anchovies.
Yeah,
Something like that.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wish he was actually in the movie.
Right.
Oh,
He would have been great.
I
Like
appreciate
them.
that they at least put him in. But what do we like? See all the story arcs we just talked about?
Right.
if he was in there, God Almighty, like they
Yeah.
got to make it a series.
And that probably would have took away from the whole Mr. Miyagi karate and Han kung fu, two
Yeah.
branches, one tree, and just Donnie being in there is like as a third wheel or third branch in this case probably
Right.
would have made it a little confusing for the storyline.
In my humble opinion, just overall, like it's a great movie. If they just would have focused on a couple of the story arcs versus trying to throw all that in there, that would have made it a little better. But either way, it's a great movie.
Yeah, it's still a
I
good
actually
movie.
liked the whole boxing thing.
I did.
That
I-
was pretty. And my favorite
like
things in movies like this isn't even the fights; it's the training sessions.
Oh yeah,
That's
Oh
my
yeah, the
favorite part.
montages are fun.
Yeah, they're great. They're great. They did good. They did pretty good about that. in
they
this one.
do have that Karate Kid wisdom in there, the martial wisdom,
Yep.
which I do enjoy that.
Right. Right.
So it's a great movie to take a kid. If you're a young martial artist, you can go watch it. If your school, it's a great school outing. In fact, we have a school outing to go back and watch the movie. We went and watched it ourselves so we could do our review. But we're gonna do a school outing to watch the movie. So yeah, I encourage you guys watch Karate Kid Legends. Do you guys have anything else you want to say before we sign off? Any thoughts about the movie?
No, just go watch it, check it out for yourself, and
Check it out. Leave
check
a
it
comment
out.
below. Tell us what you like, what you didn't like about the movie. Do you think it deserves a sequel? Let me ask you guys that. Do you think it deserves a sequel?
I would watch it.
Oh, I'd absolutely.
I'd
Like I
absolutely
said,
watch it.
like I said with this, they've left enough doors open with this. I feel like it would be
See
almost
how-
crazy not to
Yep.
put a sequel. There's so much to go off of now.
So much to go off of, so many details you could pick up on. The other thing is when he first went and visited Daniel, like how much time has elapsed since Cobra Kai in this?
That's
or,
true. They
or
didn't
was
mention
it
that.
during a time in Cobra Kai?
They
You've seen
didn't
he's got
mention
long.
it.
They didn't mention it.
They didn't mention it.
Clearly some time has passed since Mr. Han's time, and I don't even remember in his movie where they were at. Was it New? Was
They
it,
were in China. They were in Beijing.
no, the first one. Oh, it was because Jaden moved to China.
Jaden
That's right.
moved to China.
He moved to China. I forgot. Okay.
Yeah, and with this, like he's had a lot of demographics now. Lee grew up in China. Now he's moved to New York. He's getting some background in karate from Daniel. They could honestly do like the original second movie. Now that he's trying to dive deeper into the karate side style, maybe he could go to Okinawa for a while with Daniel, get
Yep.
some more background from the second branch of their tree.
New York was a cool setting, I think.
It
Yeah, it
was a
was.
cool set. You know what? You know what I just realized too? You notice at the end of the movie, okay, they do their fight, he wins. The bad guy and Connor and Lee did not become friends.
No.
No.
They did not
He-
become friends.
Well, I'm
Like
sorry,
Connor-
but he's a douchebag. I wouldn't want to be
Connor-
his friend either.
Yeah.
Connor tried to sneak
Exactly.
him, and then like he still
Showed
Called
him
him,
mercy.
showed him mercy, and then they just they bowed to each other, and that was that.
that was it.
She's like, all right.
And when Connor walked off, his dad, like, it wasn't like back in the day, like Sensei Lawrence and Johnny. Like Sensei Lawrence, like, basically called him a piece of crap. Like you're not a champ. Like look down on him. And this one, it was like
You mean
his
Kreese?
Kreese, yeah, Lawrence, Johnny Lawrence. Sensei Kreese was talking bad about Johnny. But in this one, when Connor walked off, like his dad just kind of looks at him, but he didn't say anything.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
so. I don't know. There's a lot of ways to interpret it.
Yeah, they didn't really.
We don't even know their relationship. you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like-
I think that's like I said, that's my biggest gripe with the movie. There were certain things that they didn't expound upon that I wanted them to. Still
Yeah.
like the movie, but like both of you said, a lot of story arcs and threads that they didn't wrap up.
Yeah.
And maybe they are going to do, a sequel to it.
I think with that being said, it would be wise to do one.
I would agree.
People are going to watch it.
I would watch it.
I would.
I
Yeah.
would watch it. This actually, if they did it the right way, would be a smart way to spin off of Cobra Kai.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
This would be a smart way to spin
Any
off.
characters willing to jump in from there.
Oh yeah,
Could.
yeah. I would watch it.
Well, I
Yeah.
mean, with Cobra Kai, they've already been talking about spin-offs and things like that. It'd be cool if they're like a spin-off could like tie into the movie somehow.
That would be
interesting.
cool.
The way I think that's probably part of the reason they chose New York was so, now that eliminates having to put all those characters in it. You know what I'm saying?
That's true too.
So budget thing or who knows what, but and it like everybody's mind went straight to Johnny Lawrence. So that's why they made the cameo. But it still makes sense as to why he wasn't in the movie because they're freaking he went and seen Daniel-san and said, "Hey, we need your help." They came to New York. So
Right. All right. Well, guys, go watch Karate Kid Legends. decent it's a kung fu movie. Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
kung fu movie.
Yeah.
Decent martial arts movie. Really
Yeah.
fun.
There's more kung fu in that movie than karate.
Yeah,
sure.
I would definitely agree.
For sure.
Definitely agree. So if you got time, go watch it. It's fun. Leave your comments below. Let us know what you think. And this is Martial Mentality signing out. Peace.